Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Midday Western U.S. Regional Forecast video brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, the first three maps I have to show you detail this week, next week, and I have the new long-range update for the month of February. And all three of these maps basically spell the same story. Here, looking here at precipitation anomalies, so differences from normal. And we will see repeatedly storm systems coming in from the north part of the Pacific Ocean into the Gulf of Alaska and targeting coastal Oregon, Washington, and parts of Northern California. But overall, you'll see in this forecast that some of our fears from earlier this week and stuff we've been actually talking about now for a couple of weeks seem to be manifesting themselves for California. So week one, departure from normal. Here's week two. We see almost the exact same pattern. Just cut it off right there, and things rarely penetrate down here into the southern part of California in terms of bringing in precipitation, while we continue just to add so much to the Pacific Northwest. And here's that map I promised you on Tuesday. This is the new long-range outlook for the month of February. And this is of major concern to me. You know that I have been a bit skeptical of the models predicting the position that I had said if this moves at all to the west, the whole thing changes, the whole pattern changes. Well, we right now understand that at least for the next 10 to 12 days, the likelihood of that happening is very low. The flow tends to be split right here doing something like this, and we've got a pretty robust signal. Now, I want you to watch carefully with me by the time we get out of the first week of February. If there is something to disrupt, for example, the polar vortex or the East Pacific Oscillation, which is what's keeping this part of Alaska so very cold, if something disrupts the North Atlantic over here, if something disrupts the Mount-Julian Oscillation, if just something changes, this whole pattern will move. But right now, they are all in lockstep with one another and not relenting, at least through the next 10 to 12 days. And as the map I've been drawing on here shows you, the models want to let that be persistent through the month of February. My concern is about snow in the mountains here in California, and then, of course, any precipitation that we could get to recharge that soil moisture getting into the Central Valley of California. What we've noticed is that the Sierra Nevadas have backed off on their percent of average snowfall, or basin average snowwater content, I should say, through this time of year. We're now at 70 to 90%. This is not yet alarming, but given the forecast, I don't want to see these numbers get below 70%. That's critical. Meanwhile, look at the Pacific Northwest. Remember, that had been my concern up until this point. Well, now we've got several of our reporting stations in the Cascades and the Northern Rockies sitting at 80, 90 to 100%. And these numbers are going to continue to climb over the next 15 days, possibly over the next month. So we'll work on the soil moisture anomalies here in Oregon and parts of Washington, but I expect these numbers to stay in deficit through parts of California. We're looking again at calculated soil moisture. Interestingly enough, we're not yet seeing drought showing up in California on the latest drought monitor, but I was a bit surprised that I didn't see more change in the Pacific Northwest given the systems that have rolled through recently. This is the one-week drought monitor class change map, and you can see that while we've seen improvement in parts of the Northern Rockies here, no change through much of the Pacific Northwest and a bit of a degradation here on the other side of the Cascade Mountains. Now, we'd expect that with general flow coming in from this direction, this is the flow that hits the mountains perpendicularly, and as a consequence, we get a really well-pronounced rain shadow effect. Remember that if we really want to be bringing in the precip into like Yakima Valley, getting into that big part of the Columbia Basin, we've got to get the flow to do something a bit more like that. It's got to come in from more of a southwest trajectory here. And we're just not seeing that anytime soon. And this is impressive. You're looking just middle of next week. I want you to focus right here on this part of Africa, because that is where the jet stream, which ends in the Pacific Northwest, begins. Starts here and then races in this direction, cuts across northern Africa, then goes across India, China, Japan, comes out in the Pacific, and then breaks over that ridge that's sitting right in through here. South of it, the subtropical jet stream cranks from Hawaii straight to the southeast and eventually here into Europe. And it's neat, but it's not good for the West Coast, California, in that this split seems to be immovable. And this is one of the longest branches of the jet stream that I can recall seeing behave in such a zonal manner before breaking up here in the western part of the United States. So that is this is anomalous, highly anomalous flow for this time of year. So I'm just going to play this for you, because you're going to see exactly what you'd anticipate. Systems moving in like this into the northwest and high pressure dominating in this area, sending the main frontal rain bands around it like that. So as I play it out, we'll watch the details in a minute, but just look here. The northwest gets very little break over the next 10 days. If you get a break, it may last 24 hours. But you notice that several of these systems just avoid getting anywhere south of, I don't know, let's call it Sacramento, right in through here. So starting off Friday morning into Friday afternoon and evening, so this is today, we can see that first system moves through. The high pressure cell in control, you see it right in through here. So the next system comes in by Saturday morning into coastal Oregon and Washington, bringing in some light rain, some snow at higher elevation. And then we just push the next system through Sunday into early Monday morning, getting out into Tuesday. You do see that some of these systems do push into Northern California, but mainly this is an Idaho, Oregon, Washington setup here. And it just keeps pushing in as that high pressure cell dominates into midweek next week, where that split is so well defined in the jet stream. And if I just keep taking out to next Thursday, Friday, into Saturday morning, it is just a wash, rinse, repeat pattern for the West Coast United States. And so just be prepared for this. Let's take a look at total accumulation amounts. Over the next week, the operational European model is picking up here from Northern California all the way through coastal Oregon and Washington, the chance of grabbing 3 to 6 inches of rain at the lower elevations. The snowpack you'll see in a few moments. I'm a bit skeptical of the precipitation amounts that we're seeing here, where we are noticing anywhere between 3/4 of an inch to an inch. I think the rain shadow is going to be a bit stronger than what the model's suggesting here. But coming up over the Blue Mountains, then getting into the Northern Rockies, the Sawtooth, we're going to be putting in quite a bit of liquid equivalent here. And with those elevations of the snow relatively high, we're still going to be packing in quite a bit into the Cascade here. But do notice how confined the map is showing you that snowfall. With the warmer pattern that's in place here, we are raising our snow elevation levels pretty high. Going through the Snake River Valley from Boise all the way over here to the far eastern side of the Snake River Valley, we could be adding quite a bit of snow into this part, but you know the elevation increases in that direction. But, I mean, this is great. Northern Rockies here, picking up possibly 2+ feet of snow just over the next week. But the sadder part of this is without the flow coming into California, I'm just not adding much to the Sierra Nevada here. Okay. From there, let's go take a look at what our temperatures are doing. This is daily departure from normal. And when I play this out, what you're going to notice is we go from, watch this again with me, as we go here from Friday's departures, which are on the whole for the West Coast near average to warmer than average, into Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. What do you notice? We don't notice any truly cold air coming in. I'm all the way out to next Thursday of next week here. And you just don't see the colder air coming in. That's what that split flow does to us. So where's all the cold air? It's in Alaska. Days 0 through 5, Alaska, Greenland. Therefore, the pattern is allowed to split across the United States, and it's relaxed. This pushes up our elevations on where we're going to be getting snow. So we're going to see rain creeping its way up the sides of our mountains here. But overall, chances of bringing in really cold air are relatively slim, at least through the next 10 days and possibly beyond that. If I could tell you to watch for something, you got to watch Alaska. Technically, Alaska's in our western region here. But listen, we've got to break down these temperature patterns in Alaska to get any sort of significant change across the rest of North America. It's got to start there. It'll happen with the polar vortex. We've got to change the North Pacific behavior in the North Atlantic before I see a change overall. Okay? Longer term temperature outlook, we do see the possibility of times during the month of February to let that colder air leak down through British Columbia, through Alberta into the Pacific Northwest. But overall, the pattern in the near term isn't favoring much of any cold air intrusions, okay? I will watch the model trends very carefully over the weekend, as I always do, and if I see anything change in the over weekend model runs, we will report to you right away on Monday to see if we can get that high pressure cell west. I'll watch it, report back to you then. Have a good weekend. Thank you.